And we're now on Daf Lamed Haman Beis. Man Amriach di Imaryat. Why did you get angry? Meaning, there was some reason why the Aron couldn't save itself and protect its captivity. Uman asalochti is pious. These are the words that they shouldn't have said. How, at the end of the day, there were words of pious, and now you're coming back to the people of Israel. The pasuk says, "Vayach ba'am shivim ish v'chamishim elef ish." How severe was this magefa? If you take the pasuk literally, it was 50,070 people that died. Rabbi Yavov, Rabbi Lazar argue about this. Chad Omer according to one Mandi Omar. We cannot interpret this pasuk kipshuto, that 50,000 plus 70 Jews died, but rather shivim ishayu. Only 70 people died amongst the Anshe Beit Shemesh when the Aron came to Beit Shemesh. V'chol echad v'echad shakol kichamishim elef. They were such great tzaddikim that each one would weigh equal to 50,000 people. Chad Omar chamishim elef. No, there were, the Megefa killed 50,000 Jews called echad v'echad. Each one of those 50,000 was shakol kishivim Sanhedrin, like the 70 members of the Sanhedrin. So this is all based on a principle called HaKadosh Baruch Hu Medagdekim Tzadikim Kichut HaSayra. And whether their sin was that they didn't stop their process of harvesting, or they said words about the Aron, like, why couldn't you protect yourself from the beginning and it was taken into captivity, and now all of a sudden you decided that you're coming back. Okay, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Medagdik with Tzadikim Kichut HaSayra. Okay, now Shmuel in Sefer Shmuel and in Divrei Yomim tells the story after Uzzah dies because he grabbed onto the Aron. David did not want to continue and take the Aron directly to Yerushalayim. Instead, he brought it to Beis Oved Edom Hagati. Now, I'm not sure if his name was Oved or Edom. I think it's Oved Edom. I think it's like a combination, a first name and a last name. And there the Aron was 3 months, and tremendous miracles happened for the benefit of Beis Oved Edom during that 3-month period. And after David got back to the state of Simcha because he saw how beautiful it was that the Beis Oved Edom, where the Aron was, had flourished, he decided now we can bring the Aron back to Yerushalayim and to Ir David, and they were makriv korbanos in front of the Aron. And the Sefer Shmuel records the following: Vehiki tzadu nosei Aron Hashem shisha tzadim. Every time the Aron moved forward 6 steps, vayizbach shar umari, they brought a korban of a shar and a mari. Shar mari is a fat shar, uksiv. And then we look in Divrei Yomim describing the aliyah of the Aron to Yerushalayim, and we find something different. There's a discrepancy. It says there, vayizbachu shiva Harim v'shiva elim. So in Shmuel, it mentions Shar Umari. That's only 1 korban. And in Divrei Yomim, it says that they brought 7 parim and 7 elim, and the Gemara reconciles this. Omar Rav Papa Bar Shmuel, Al Kol Psiu Psia, any step that they took from Beis Oved Edom until they came to Ir David in Yerushalayim, they shechted a shar umari, as is mentioned in Sefer Shmuel. What about Divrei Yomim? Al kol sheish v'sheish psios, every 6 steps that they took on their way, they shechted Shiva Parim v'Shiva Elim. And that's how we get the cheshbon, the calculation that's indicated in Divrei Yomi. Amalei Rav Chisda says to Rav Papa Shmuel, Im Kain, if at every step they brought a shor umrimi, leisas kol Eretz Yisrael bamos. Right, this was before Yerushalayim, before Shlomo built the Mikdash, so they brought karbonos on bamos. And now you're saying that at every step of the way, they set up another bama. And here there's a long discussion about why the Gemara thinks that's impossible. Ela Amar of Chisda, I'll call sheish v'sheish psios. Every time they walked 6 psios, then they shechted shar umari, as the pasuk says, "Vayiki tzadu nosei aron Hashem shisha tzad vayizbach shar umari." I'll call shisha starim shal sheish psios shiva parim v'shiva elim. They shechted 7 parim and 7 elim. So here there's a long mathematical calculation. I'll just give you the gist of it. He says, after 36 psios, which are divided into 6 groups of 6 psios each, and after each group of 6 psios, they shechted a par umari. It says in Divrei Yomim that they came to Kidon, and that's where the entire episode of Uzzah took place. But in Shmuel, it says they came to a different place. Not Goren Kidon, but Goren Nachon. How do we reconcile this? Over of Yochanan, B'tchila Kidon. At the beginning, when the Aron came there, it was Kidon. Kidon means a sword, and Uzzah died by this sword. Ulvasov, after the Aron was brought to Beis Obed Edom, and there was such a bracha, because the wife of Edom and her 8 daughters-in-law gave birth Shisha B'Keres Echad, then it was called Nachon, right? Nachon means that there was a tikkun. Nimtzei Sata Omer, according to the Brisa, we're going now back to the Brisa about Bnei Yisrael passing over the Yarden. Shlosha mini avonim. 3 times the Jewish people set up avonim. Echad, the first time, was Sheikh Moshe Be'eretz Moab. On the 1st of Shvat, when Bnei Yisrael got a review lesson from Moshe about the Torah, and he explained the Torah in 70 languages. Shenever B'yever Hayad Be'eretz Moab Hoil Moshe Be'eretz HaTorah Zos Lemar. And we learned from this that Moshe Rabbeinu set up avonim on the eastern side of the Yarden, and that's derived from Gzeira Shava with the word Be'er. Moshe, Hoel Moshe Be'er. Lahalon, when Moshe commands Yoshua and the people of Israel to set up the stones on Har Grizim and Har Eival, who Omer, the pasuk says in Dvarim Chazayin, V'kasavta aleim es kol divrei Torah zos Be'er Heitev. Asya Be'er Be'er. Just like in Har Grizim, the pasuk says Be'er. With regard to those avonim that they set up, so too the Be'er by Moshe Rabbeinu was also near a Hakomas avonim. The Echad Shehekim Yoshua. Now we get to the second time that they set up avonim b'toch hayarden, in the Jordan River. Shenemar u'shteim esrei avonim hekim Yoshua b'toch hayarden. And those were set up ikfias on a permanent basis as a zikaron to the nest, the great miracle that they passed over the Yarden. The Echad, the third time they set up avonim hekim, Yoshua set up a Gilgal. Shenemar, the pasuk in Yoshua Dalet testifies the ace shteim esrei avonim ha'el asher lokhu ben hayarden hekim Yoshua b'Gilgal. Now, back on Daf Lamed Beis, we had a Mishnah that Bnei Yisrael set up a Mizbeach on Har Grizim and Har Eival from the same stones that they brought from the Yarden. And those avnei mizbeach, the stones that they used for the mizbeach, they wrote on the stones kol Torah in shivim lashon, so that the umas ha'olam would come and copy over the Torah. And the pasuk says, "Vakimosa lecha avonim gedolos v'sadeto some besid v'kasavta aleim is called divrei Torah zos." Now, if you read the pasuk literally, it says v'sadeto osam basid. First, they plastered down these a layer of plaster on top of these avonim, and then v'kasavta aleim, and then they wrote it. And that's going to be one opinion amongst the Tanoim. The other opinion is going to say, no, first they wrote the Torah, and then they covered the Torah with Sid. Torah Rabbanan Kesed Kosvi Sosat Torah Al Gabi Hamizbeach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Al Gabi Avonim Kosvu. Rabbi Yehuda holds that they wrote it directly on the Avonim, and then later they put on the Sid. Shenemar V'Kasavta Al Avonim is called Divrei Torah Zos. So it seems from the pasuk in Dvarim Chav Zayin that on the Avonim Mamish directly they wrote the Torah. The Akakach. And later, after the Torah was inscribed, then Sadu Osam Besid, they plastered it on top. Reb Shimon turns to Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, L'dvarecha, if you're telling me that after they wrote the Torah, they put a film of sin on top, Hech Lamdu Umos Shel Osas Man Torah. The whole purpose was to give the Umos an opportunity to study the Torah, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would see that they didn't fulfill the Torah. But now you're telling me that the Torah was covered over on these Avonim with Sid. Amalo, so Yehuda responds to Shimon, there was a tremendous miracle that took place. And what was that? Bina Yisera Nasa Bem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And who is Bahem? Bahem refers to their Sofrim. So it means that the Goyim sent their scribes to copy down the Torah. And even though the Torah was actually covered by Sid, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, nevertheless, these scribes, who are the wise men of the Umas HaOlam, through Bina, and this Bina came as a divine gift, were able to understand. And this is called Bina's Lahavin Dov Mitov Tova. And they said, Im Kisu Yisrael Savona B'Sid, Mistama Yeshnam Dvar Mitachas HaSid. They understood, they figured out like detectives that there must be something inscribed under the Sid. And Kilfu Es HaSid, they peeled off the layer of plaster, Mibli, without Shaf Osman Torah Tipoga, without being pogea in even one letter of the Torah. V'shigru noterin shalahem v'kilfus asiv. And they sent their sofrim, as we said before, their scribes, their wise men, and the wise men were able to peel off the sid, and then they copied over the Torah that was written on the Avonim, and they took back the Torah to their place. This is why the Umas HaOlam were decreed with a great punishment. And why is that? Leber Shachas, they would go down to Ber Shachas. Shahoylem Lilmo, they should have learned the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and fulfilled them and accepted the Torah of Yisrael and Lo Lomdu. But they refused to study and implement the Torah and the Sheva Mitzvahs. This is all according to Rabbi Yehuda, that the Sid was placed on top. Rabbi Shimon disagrees. Omer, he says, no, first they put the Sid, and that was, we saw the literal translation of the Pasuk in Dvarim Chav Zayin, and Al Gabi HaSid Kosvua, they wrote the Torah, inscribed it on top of the Sid. Kepashtus HaKosv. Kosvu lahem. In addition, the 7 nations right? There were 7 nations that were occupying the land, and then there were 7 nations that were in Chutz La'aretz. Now, I'm not sure if these 7 nations in Chutz La'aretz would, apparently, I get the impression here, please take a look in your commentary, that these were 7 other nations. And Kosvam Lamata, in other words, under the Torah that was written on the Avonim, they wrote the parsha of Lo Sechaya Kol Neshama, that the 7 nations that occupy the land should be destroyed. Leman asher lo yilamdu eschem lasos kechol toavosom asher osu lehem v'chatosem l'Hashem Elokeichem. There was a message being sent to the nations that live outside the bounds of Eretz Yisrael. And what was that message that was being conveyed to them? By writing this pasuk, Lo Sechaya Kol Neshama, Lamadita. Okay, the word Lamadita here is not the way it normally means that we learn, but rather Lamadita means Yomer Agoyim Holamadita. Shem Hayu Chozim B'tshuva. Now we're talking about those nations outside of the boundaries of land. Again, I don't know if these are the same nations that were in the land. I have, first I thought it was other nations, but now I'm beginning to think that maybe these were Knanim who lived outside the bounds of Eretz Yisrael. But in any event, Chozim B'tshuva, if they would do tshuva, Hayim Mekabel Mosan, Bnei Yisrael would not have to destroy them. Why? Because Lo Sechai Kol Neshama is because we don't want the people of Israel to learn from the chait and the immorality of the nations in the land. But as far as the nations outside the land, if they would do tshuva, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would spare them. There would be no mitzvah to destroy them. And he writes here, Umos Hadorim B'Eretz Yisrael Ein Moel Lehem Tshuva. Why? Why isn't tshuva meaningful for the nations that are in the land of Eretz Yisrael? The nation Choshim Shechozrim Machmas Yerosim B'nei Yisrael. Rashi says we're only afraid that they're going to ki'ilu do tshuva because they're afraid of Bnei Yisrael. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's not a sincere tshuva. And the Tosefta seems to imply Shegam Zeh Kosvulem Im Atem Chozru Bachem Anu Mekablim Estem, that the message was sent to them explicitly, and it was written to them that they can do tshuva. And Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with Rabbi Shimon, and he holds Ein Mekablim B'tshuva V'nerogim, and they will be destroyed. Even the 7 nations outside. Amar Rav Bar Shila, my time there of Shimon, who holds that after they put the layer of Sid, then on top they wrote the Sefer Torah. The Sid, because it says, V'hayu Amim Misrafos Sid. And Rav is explaining this pasuk according to Rav Shimon, that the nations will be judged with Sreifa. Okay, here the Marsha says that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Misrafos is a reference to Gehenna. However, Rabbi Shimon holds that we don't interpret Misrafos as Gehenna, but rather as Misrafos. And again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging the people of the world, the Ovdei Kochavim, that they didn't learn the Torah. Al Iskei Sid. So the Pasuk Yeshaya V'hayu Amim Misrafos Sid is an allusion to the Sid that the Torah was written on the Sid. Right? Because we're going to Rav Shimon that the Sid came first, and then the Torah was written. And they didn't learn the Torah. Rabbi Yehuda, on the other hand, is going to say that when it says, V'hayu amim misrafos sid, that's a reference to the punishment of the nations of the world in Gehenna. Ki sid, ma sid, which is put down, lisakno, and it's a good thing, ein lo takana, el b'sreifa. I guess you have to burn the sid, or heat it up, af osama kusim. Again, instead of kusim, we should accept the gears of umos ha'olam. If they won't come and be misgayer, and they will remain as the umos ha'olam, elem takana el b'sreifa, with the fire of Gehenna. That's Rabbi Yehuda's interpretation. Keman azal hadesanya, according to which Tana, which again the machlok is whether makabel b'nei shiva umos b'chutz la'aretz with tshuva or not. The pasuk says in Dvarim Chafal, ki teitzei l'chutz la'aretz lamilchama leivecha nesano Hashem l'kef yedech v'shavisa shivyo. And these words v'shavisa shivyo are redundant. They could have said v'nosno Hashem l'kef v'yodecha v'risa shivyo ishis vastoar. So the Brisa darshans the extra words v'shavisa shivyo. L'rabos knanim shebechutz la'aretz, that those knanim, oh, now it indicates that it's one of the 7 nations probably, that were taken captive by the umos ha'olam. So again, now we're talking about other umos that take knanim into captivity. So they're taken out of Eretz Yisrael against their will. They are not included under the mitzvah of lo sechai kol neshama. And what it says afterwards, the din of Yifas Toar, it refers to Shar Umos, and you could take a Yifas Toar for Shar, or Knanim that were taken in captivity by Shar Umos. Shem Chosu B'tshuva Makabel Mosa. So if the din of those Knanim that are in Chutz La'aretz is like the din of Eishis Yifas Toar, then it means that we can be makabel them b'tshuva. Keman, on the top of Nut Lamed Vav, Ki Rabbi Shimon. This brisa reflects the sheet of Rabbi Shimon, who says that the members of the 7 nations that occupied the land but now left the land and they're in Chutz La'aretz, they're not included on the Lo Sechai Kol Neshama if they do tshuva. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, he holds that even if the 7 umos would leave Eretz Yisrael, or any members of them, and go to Chutzah, they're still included on the Lo Sechai Kol Neshama. It's a din in the Ummah. It's not a din in where they're located. And therefore, the pasuk of V'shavisa Shivyo could not be referring to the Sheva HaUmos. Here's where we'll stop on the top of Daf Lamed Vav. Wishing you a great day.